The millionaire's wife humiliated everyone until a new employee discovered the amazing truth. Grace wiped down the counter, her hands calloused from years of pouring coffee and serving up meals in a small-town diner. The bells above the door jingled as she welcomed the lunchtime crowd, a fading smile masking the weight on her shoulders. She was a hard worker, a dedicated mother of two, struggling to make ends meet since her husband, Jake, had returned from deployment. The shadows of war lingered in their home, leaving Jake lost, distant. The world outside thrived with weekend potlucks and family gatherings, while Grace curled her fingers around a worn-out coffee pot, fighting against the tide of an unjust world. In this quaint suburban community, where the wealthy flaunted their lives like peacocks, the richest of them all was Melissa. Lavish parties spilling over with champagne and condescension, always punctuating her conversations with jabs that left scars deeper than anyone could see. Each smile Grace forced was a barrier against the needling comments about her faded clothes, her tired eyes, her children's second-hand shoes. And yet, she endured. Then Tom walked in. The clatter of dishes announced a new presence, the dishwasher position nobody wanted, but he took it willingly. With his warm smile and easy laughter, he fought against fate's burdens as he swapped tales of struggle with Grace in between the sounds of clinking plates. They formed an unbreakable bond within the din of the diner's hectic hours, but Tom, ever observant, soon noticed how the glow in Grace's eyes dimmed whenever Melissa strolled in, her designer dress trailing behind her like a shattered rose. He was quick to sense how the air tightened with tension, the chatter fading as she summoned glares from the working class surrounding her. One evening, as the diner cleared out, curiosity led Tom to a stack of old newspapers tucked beneath a corner booth. A headline caught his eye: "Local businessman builds empire amid controversy." The article detailed Melissa's family history, shedding light on her glittering facade. It turned out her wealth had come at the expense of others, including Grace's neighborhood, left in poverty while her family prospered. A fire ignited in Tom's chest. This wasn't just about money, it was about dignity, hope, community strength. But with this knowledge weighed down by a heavy heart, he faced a dilemma: expose Melissa and risk everything they had built, or stay silent and let injustice flourish. Just days away from the annual charity gala, Tom wrestled with his conscience, emboldened by the connection he shared with Grace. He needed to honor their hard work, their struggles. And as the invitation arrived, he knew it was time to act. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The gala unfolded under crystal chandeliers, an intoxicating festivity veiling the hidden truths. Grace stood beside Tom, her heart racing as he braced himself for the confrontation planned for tonight. Just before he was to reveal Melissa's true colors in front of everyone, Grace stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "We're more than just our struggles," she declared, gaining strength from every conversation they shared. "Honesty and integrity bind our community together." The air crackled with tension. The glittering facade hung in the balance, hearts pounding in anticipation. Would they break the silence, or would the truth be silenced once again? Sustainability of hope felt just within reach, teetering on the edge of courage. The room went silent, a collective breath held as Grace's words hung in the air. She could see the flickers of surprise on the guests' faces, a wave of disbelief rippling like the tension in the air. Melissa's perfect smile faltered, her sharp blue eyes narrowing, assessing the situation with a predatory grace. "Are you done, dear?" she drawled, her voice dripping with condescension as if dismissing a petulant child. "How very quaint." Tom stepped forward, a firm determination in his stance. "No, she isn't. Grace speaks for all of us, those who work hard to make this community thrive while you take and take." A murmured agreement rose from the crowd of diners, the few who had chosen to venture to the gala. Grace could feel the warmth of their support, and it fueled the fire igniting in her spirit. Encouragement shot through her like a lightning bolt, and she pushed back her shoulders, holding her head high. Melissa's laughter peeled through the tension, echoing mockery. "And what do you know about anything? You're just a server in a diner." "Maybe so," Grace replied, her voice steady now, "but I know the strength of my community, how they come together, how they lift each other. It's what makes us more than labels or titles. We matter." The guests shifted uncomfortably, glancing at one another, unsure of how to react. They had feasted on the notion of superiority for too long, simply accepting Melissa's reign of entitlement. Watching Grace, Tom realized she was right. This wasn't just about exposing a rich woman's lies. This was about standing up against a culture of silence, of complacency. He stepped closer to Grace, channeling the bravery she had shown him, steeling his resolve. "We are the backbone of this community. The truth deserves to be told, and it's time we held her accountable." With that, Tom fished out the newspaper article from his pocket, holding it high for all to see. Gasps filled the room, and the tension shifted from disbelief to indignation as whispers floated through the crowd. "That's where her wealth comes from?" one voice questioned. Everyone turned to Melissa, the mask of perfection slipping. The shifting expressions morphed, confusion replaced by righteous anger. "Is it true?" a local businessman challenged, his brow furrowing. "Did you profit from our suffering?" The room was a tempest of voices now, accusations flying like arrows. Melissa's cool composure shattered, revealing a bitter edge beneath her polished exterior. She straightened, but her bravado faded under the weight of truth. "You think you can tear me down?" she sneered. "I'll crush you all." Yet, the room had found its courage, united not by wealth, but by the spirit of the community. Grace felt the momentum shift, a wave of strength surging through her. "Together, we are unstoppable," she declared, raising her voice above the din. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting deep shadows across the room. A hush fell, and then the unmistakable sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as they approached. Gasps echoed again, this time filled with concern. Was someone calling the police? Grace glanced at Tom, her heart pounding anew with worry. What had they unleashed? In the back of her mind, a horrifying thought burgeoned. Had they gone too far? Would this expose everything they had worked for? As the door swung open, a new wave of uncertainty washed over the gala. What would happen next? Who would walk through that door? Everything hung on the edge of a knife, the atmosphere thick with anticipation, the truth aching to break free. The door swung open with a creak, and the collective gasp from the room hung in the air like a thick fog. Grace held her breath, heart racing, as she locked eyes with the figure entering. It was Officer Ramirez, a familiar presence in their town, known for his fairness and compassion. "Evening, everyone," he said, his voice steady and calm, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling within the gala. He glanced around the room, absorbing the tension before settling on Melissa, who now stood frozen, her facade of royalty cracking like fragile porcelain. "We received a call about disturbances here. Mind if I ask what is going on?" "We're just discussing business," Melissa interjected, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But the confidence she tried to project felt paper-thin. Officer Ramirez raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Business? Or perhaps it's more than that." He turned his attention to Tom, who was still gripping the article tightly, like a lifeline. Tom swallowed hard, feeling the weight of Officer's expectant gaze. "We're exposing the truth," he replied. "Melissa has been exploiting our community for her own gain. It's time she faced the consequences." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, emboldened by Tom's declaration. Grace felt a rush of warmth, she wasn't alone anymore. They all stood together, united. Melissa's bravado was wilting, fury twisting her features. "This is absurd," she spat, her voice rising. "You can't just come in here and believe their lies. I am a respected member of this community. Grace took a step forward, her heartbeat matching the pounding of the sirens that had now faded. Respect isn't earned through money or influence. It's what you give back to those around you. And you haven't given us anything but disdain. Officer Ramirez surveyed the room. People don't call the police lightly. What I'm hearing doesn't seem like how a community member should behave. He crossed his arms, posturing confidently. If there's evidence, well, we have a problem. The atmosphere shifted yet again, tension rippling through the gathering. The sight of the officer, an advocate for justice, made everything feel real. People began speaking up, recounting stories of those who had suffered due to Melissa's greed, little fragments of their lives woven together in a tapestry of shared experience. As voices rose, Grace felt herself smiling. This was it, this was the moment. Every worried face that echoed her own hope brought purpose to her heart. She looked to Tom, who nodded encouragingly. Then, a gasp interrupted the discussion. Look! A woman pointed, her hand trembling as she lifted an envelope. My business was featured in the article. The room turned quiet again, eyes on her as she read aloud the devastating details of Melissa's actions intertwined with her own business struggles. That was the final straw. Melissa clenched her fists, her mask fully slipping now. This isn't over. She shouted defiantly before storming toward the exit, slamming the door behind her, but as she left, the roar of voices rose, echoing through the hall. People began clapping, sharing stories of courage and resilience. It felt as if the walls around them were coming down. Tom reached for Grace's hand, squeezing it gently. We did this together, he breathed, a smile lighting up his eyes, but before she could reply, an unexpected call came through Officer Ramirez's radio, cutting through the joyful commotion. Officer Ramirez, we need you back here. There's been a development regarding Melissa's accounts. An uneasy silence blanketed the room once more as everybody turned to listen. Grace's heart sank. What kind of development? They were on the brink of something monumental, yet the future felt daunting. Would Melissa retaliate? Would the truth indeed come to light? As the officer's serious demeanor filled the room with a chill, Grace felt the weight of uncertainty press down. What had they just set in motion? The tension in the air was almost palpable, thick enough to suffocate hope. Officer Ramirez's eyes narrowed, focusing as he answered the call. The room was silent, anticipation hanging heavy as he listened intently. Hold on, he said, the abrupt pause hanging like a cliffhanger in everyone's mind. As the words from his radio faded, a frown crossed his face. What do you mean, irregularities? Grace could feel her heart thumping wildly. Tom's grip on her hand tightened, mirroring her worries. All around them, whispers erupted again, each one a thread unspooling from the tapestry of this community they had fought to reclaim. What irregularities? Grace found herself asking softly. She was desperate to anchor herself, desperate for clarity amid the chaos. Officer Ramirez cleared his throat, breaking the thick silence. It seems there are quite a few discrepancies in Melissa's business accounts. Enough to warrant an investigation. His words landed like stones, causing ripples of emotion throughout the crowd. Glimmers of hope danced through the gathering, but Grace noticed the flicker of fear as well. Would this investigation mean retribution? Would Melissa lash out now that her facade was crumbling? As if sensing their unspoken concerns, Ramirez continued. We don't have all the details yet, but it sounds serious. I'm going to need a full list of names and businesses affected. The crowd exploded again with murmured agreements, weighing the safety of unity against the power of the woman who had dominated their lives for so long. Seeing their resolve, Grace felt a rush of bravery. Officer, if you need documentation, I have everything right here. She lifted her phone, ready to share everything she had collected. I documented everything. The unfair pricing, the lies she spread. Her voice trailed, overwhelmed as fury bubbled within her. I'll help, too, a voice called from the rear. It was Martha, the owner of the bakery that had suffered countless times at Melissa's hands. We all will. Grace turned to Tom, excitement swelling in her chest. He beamed back at her, and something deep within her ignited a fierce determination to see this through. With people stepping forward, sharing similar stories, the energy shifted from a mere gathering to something stronger. A movement. Officer Ramirez glanced around the room, his expression softening. You all have the right to be heard. I will ensure that this matter is taken seriously. The applause erupted again, echoing against the walls louder, prouder. It felt like the first rain after a drought, a relief that didn't come without turmoil. But then, Grace's phone buzzed violently in her hand, jolting her from the momentary bliss. She glanced down at the screen, her heart sinking. A message from Melissa's personal number flashed ominously. You think you've won? This isn't even the half of it. The joyous atmosphere evaporated, panic threading through them like a chill wind. What does this mean? Tom asked, looking at Grace, concern etched on his face. I don't know, Grace replied, her voice shaking. But if she is angry now, what will she do next? Officer Ramirez looked grim, sensing the shift. We need to take this seriously. Keep your heads up. Don't let fear keep you from standing together. Even as the words were meant to reassure, Grace felt a chill creep down her spine. The looming shadow of retaliation formed like a dark cloud overhead. Would their efforts be enough to break Melissa's grip on their community? And what would she reveal in her desperate bid for control? The uncertainty weighed heavy, and just when they thought they dared to hope, they realized the battle was only just beginning. The atmosphere crackled with an unsettling energy, the weight of ambivalence hanging heavy over the crowd. Grace lifted her chin defiantly as unease coiled tighter inside her. She looked around the room, taking in the worried faces of her friends and neighbors, people who had once cowered under Melissa's manipulative reign. Stay positive, right? Tom whispered, trying to lighten the mood despite the worry etched on his features. Yeah, she replied, but the word felt hollow. How could they stay hopeful when danger loomed like a specter, ready to strike? The murmurs grew louder, questions spiraled through the crowd, each one louder than the last. Yet within that clamor, Grace heard something shifting. It was subtle, a promise of resistance that buried itself deep in her heart. Listen to your neighbors, Officer Ramirez urged, raising his voice to cut through the growing tempest. I need everyone to share their experiences. Every single one counts. Without thinking, Grace stepped forward again. I have emails, invoices, everything. She found a new energy to her voice, one she wasn't sure existed until now. Melissa's been using her power against us for years. This lasts here, tonight. A wave of determination surged through the crowd. One by one, people stood with their stories. Martha spoke of the hidden fees that haunted her bakery. Mike, the mechanic, shared how Melissa's influence had threatened to shut down his shop over petty disputes. Each tale dripped with pain, but they were also drenched in strength, a tapestry of shared struggle woven together by a shared goal. As voices rose in unity, Grace felt the fear ebb. Huddled together, each person felt a vestige of courage light up their spirits. The way Officer Ramirez listened, engaged, ready to act, seemed to draw them even closer, but then, like an ice bucket challenge, the chatters quieted down suddenly. The screen on Grace's phone lit up again with a new notification. Melissa had responded. Grace's heart raced as she snatched the device, anxiety clawing at her throat. Stay in your lane, or else you will regret this. The message was clear: Melissa was still a force to reckon with. The crowd didn't see the message, and Grace, choosing to shield their collective spirit, pocketed the phone without uttering a word. Look, if we want to stand any chance against Melissa, we need to prepare, Officer Ramirez interjected, grounding her thoughts. Documentation is critical. I see her threatening, but together, we can turn the tables. What can we do? Someone called out from the back. Grace turned and saw how fear transformed into shared determination, unity sprouting in its wake. Let us gather everything we can. Spread the word. And protect yourselves, Ramirez directed. The investigation is just starting, but we all have to stay on high alert. As plans began to form, a sense of urgency propelled them forward. It was no longer just about protection, it was about reclaiming their lives. Layers of fear peeled back to reveal a tapestry of resilience. Standing beside Tom, Grace felt an unfamiliar rush of hope. "Together, we can make this happen," she murmured, meeting his eyes. He nodded, a smile breaking through his worry, but just as they started mapping out their unified response, a low rumble shook the building, an unsettling harbinger of what was to come. It shattered the moments of budding resolve. The lights flickered, casting unsettling shadows, and alarms began to blare, sending shockwaves through the gathering. "What's happening?" Tom cried, his voice rising over the cacophony. Grace's thoughts raced. Was this Melissa's doing? Fear clawed its way back into her mind, but she clenched her fists, determined not to back down. They were not alone. What's next? She thought, her heart quickening. Was this a threat, or just a misguided reaction? The questions hung heavy, unresolved and daunting. And as the crowd swelled in confusion, Grace felt the stirring beneath her resolve. This was just the beginning of something much greater. Would they stand unbroken in the storm that Melissa was conjuring right before their eyes? The alarms blared like a siren in a whirlwind, echoing off the walls, unraveling the threads of resolve the crowd had so carefully woven. Grace looked around, her heart thudding against her ribs as panic surged. Faces morphed from determined fighters to anxious children, searching for safety. "Stay calm." Officer Ramirez's voice cut through the chaos, a rock amidst the storm. "Everyone, make your way to the exits, but do it calmly." People hesitated, confusion gripping them like a vice. Grace could feel the fear seeping back into the air, heavier than before. "Let us go," Tom urged, grabbing her arm gently but firmly. His eyes blazed with a mix of worry and determination. She nodded, trying to anchor herself to that wave of hope they had just garnered. As they moved toward the nearest exit, Grace's phone vibrated again in her pocket, but she ignored it. Now was not the time. She could better focus on the growing urgency surrounding her. The crushing crowd pushed and pulled, each body a parade of anxiety. "What if it's Melissa?" someone shouted. It ignited a chorus of whispers, panic creeping like a shadow throughout the group. "Don't think that way," Grace shouted, trying to rise above the din. "Together, we can handle whatever comes next." Her voice wavered slightly, but she was resolute. The crowd needed to hear a voice of strength. "What if no one can stop her?" a woman cried from behind them. Grace felt the sharp stab of doubt. What if they were just running into Melissa's trap? But she shook her head, refusing to let that fear hijack their moment. As they reached the exit, Grace saw a glimmer of hope. Outside, the night sky was deep and starry, a vivid contrast to the chaos inside. It felt like freedom just a step away. But even as she stepped out into the cool air, she couldn't shake the feeling they weren't out of danger yet. Officer Ramirez instructed everyone to disperse to the park across the street. "We can't stay here," he urged. The crowd began to migrate, shedding the confines of the building like a snake shedding its skin. In the park, they fell into small clusters, voices overlapping as they sought comfort among one another. "What was that?" Tom asked, pulling Grace aside. "Do you think it was an attack?" Grace's thoughts raced. "It felt orchestrated," she admitted softly. "I've learned to think like Melissa. This could be her way of creating chaos, but it also gives us more time to regroup." Tom nodded, squeezing her shoulder lightly. "Then we need to be smarter. Let us gather whatever evidence we can and find a way to confront her properly." As they brainstormed among their friends, Grace felt a newfound energy stirring inside her again. "We can't let fear dictate our actions anymore. Remember how we came together tonight?" Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, this time she couldn't ignore it. She pulled it out, her heart pounding. It was another message from Melissa. "You think you can challenge me? This is just the beginning. Fear threatened to choke her, but she shoved it down. No, she whispered to herself. This isn't just about survival. We can push back. We have to. Grace. Tom's voice pulled her back. Are we ready to face her? Grace looked into the eyes of her friends, now more than mere neighbors. They were allies, and this shared fear had transformed into a shared purpose. Yes, we will. Together. In that moment, as whispers of plans and strategies filled the air, Grace broke through the crowd to face them. If we fight back now, we can expose Melissa for who she truly is. We just need to be careful, smart. But we can't back down. This is our chance to turn the tide. As cheers erupted around her, the ground beneath her feet felt solid, like the roots of a tree breaking through the earth. But just when it seemed like hope was blooming, a shadowy figure appeared at the park entrance. Her heart dropped. Was it Melissa, or had they underestimated the threat? Who is that? A voice trembled from the back. Grace felt the atmosphere shift, tension tightening like a drawn bowstring. She stepped forward, curiosity battling her fear. What was coming next? Grace squinted into the darkness, trying to make out the figure approaching. She felt the collective breath of the crowd hitch, an anxious hush falling over them like a heavy blanket. The shadows shifted, revealing not Melissa, but a woman dressed in a deep green jacket, her hair glistening under the faint light of the park's lampposts. Who are you? Grace called out, her voice reflecting both authority and uncertainty, drumming in her ears like a heartbeat. The woman paused, glancing behind her as if weighing her options before facing the crowd. I'm Rachel, she said, her voice steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. I'm not your enemy. Grace felt a flicker of hope, but it was overshadowed by caution. And how do we know that? Rachel took a step closer, the moonlight illuminating her face. Because I was with Melissa before and I escaped. She's coming for you all, she said, urgency lacing her tone. Gasps punctuated the crowd, and Grace caught Tom's eyes, full of both skepticism and intrigue. What did you see? What do you know? Rachel inhaled, gathering her thoughts, her expression shifting from fear to determination. Melissa has been planning this for weeks, trying to unravel everything you've built. She's not just a threat, she's a monster hidden behind a pretty facade. The way Rachel spoke ignited something in Grace. It wasn't just panic talking, but a wounded resolve a survivor's will to endure. We can't just listen to one person's account. What proof do you have? Grace pressed, feeling the need to protect her friends more than ever. In response, Rachel fumbled with her pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. Here, it's a list. I found her plans, names, everything. She plans to expose you, to divide us even more. I had to leave before I became part of this chaos. The crowd leaned in, curiosity woven into their fear. They looked to Grace for leadership, each of their faces reflecting the flickering light of hope and skepticism. Is this real? Do we trust her? Tom asked, almost to himself, glancing at the paper, then back to Rachel. Grace weighed the options. Trusting a stranger felt dangerous, yet what choice did they have? Melissa's reach loomed larger than they knew, and they needed every piece of the puzzle. We have to consider this, she finally said, her voice gathering strength. If anything Rachel says is true, we need to prepare for a confrontation. Taking a risk, Grace stepped closer to Rachel. You say you escaped. What else do you know? How can we outsmart Melissa? Rachel's eyes locked onto Grace's, a shared understanding blossoming. We can use her tactics against her. She thrives on deception, on isolation. If we pull together and expose her plans, we turn her game back on her. No more running scared. Grace's breath quickened as adrenaline surged within her. We can't just remain on the defensive anymore. We need to take the fight to her, she said, feeling determination ignite within the group. Exactly. Rachel replied, her passion igniting a small fire among the crowd. but we'll need to act fast. She has eyes everywhere. Information is our weapon, and we need you all on board. As the crowd buzzed with renewed energy, Grace spotted movement behind Rachel. A figure in the distance was approaching, obscured by shadows. Someone else is coming. A voice called out, the crowd tensing again. Was it another ally, or had they underestimated the threat again? Grace's heart raced as she took a step back, ready to protect her friends. Everyone, stay alert. With the air thick with anticipation, Grace's instincts kicked in. They were in the eye of the storm, and who or what would emerge next? The figure drew closer, stepping into the light. Grace's heart hammered in her chest as she strained to see. The outline transformed, revealing not a friend, but a familiar face twisted with malice. Peter. Dark, intense eyes surveyed the crowd, a smug grin spreading across his face. Surprised to see me? He sneered, his tone dripping with mockery. I thought I'd join the party. Murmurs of fear rippled through the crowd. Grace felt a wave of anger surge within her. What are you doing here, Peter? She shot back, her voice firm despite the spike of anxiety. I've heard all the fun that's been happening, he replied, taking another step forward, clearly reveling in the tension crackling in the air. I thought it was time to remind everyone who's really in charge here. Rachel moved instinctively in front of Grace, filling the space between them like a shield. This is not your show anymore, Peter. We know what Melissa has planned, and we won't let you manipulate us. Ah, look at that. The little girl has teeth. His laughter cut through the night like glass shattering. But you think you can outsmart Melissa? You're playing in leagues you don't belong to. What do you want from us? Tom interjected, stepping beside Grace and Rachel, aggressive protectiveness lighting his eyes. Just a bit of entertainment, Peter replied casually, glancing at the gathering crowd as if they were pawns in a game. And possibly a show of strength. You see, you're all just dangling at the end of a string, waiting for someone to cut you loose. I want to see just how far you're willing to fall. Grace felt the crowd shifting restlessly, uncertainty and fear swirling among them. She needed them to believe, to stand firm against the emotional storm raging inside her. We're not falling, Peter, she declared, her words ringing with defiance. You can't scare us. We're stronger together. We won't be divided. Peter's smirk faltered for just a moment, a glimmer of confusion flashing in his eyes. Oh, but that's where you're wrong, he said slowly, an icy tone creeping into his voice. Melissa knows how to put fear in people's hearts. And she's coming. She will destroy everything you've built. Rachel interjected, sensing the crowd's wavering confidence. We have to act quickly. We have your playbook, Peter. It's not just mere threats anymore. We will expose everything. Such bravado. He laughed, but his eyes darted nervously, revealing a chink in his facade. You really think you can turn the tables? You're just a bunch of kids, playing dress-up in a grown-up's world. Suddenly, the crowd began to murmur again, gaining strength. The fear held in their voices transmuted into a low, determined growl. Grace raised her hand, silencing them. No more fear. No more running. This is our moment to take a stand. Together. A fire lit inside Grace as she stepped closer to Peter, daring him to challenge her. You think you have us figured out? You think Melissa has power over us? Wrong. Peter's face darkened, the shadows from his tightly drawn grin retreating. He took a step back, a hint of uncertainty in his posture, and just then, a rustle echoed behind them, a thick presence weaving through the crowd. Grace turned swiftly, holding her breath. In the distance emerged another figure, stepping out from behind the trees, a tall man, cloaked in shadows, an air of authority clinging to him like a second skin. Glancing between the new arrival and Peter, Grace felt the tension grow thick enough to slice. Who is that? She whispered, adrenaline flaming through her veins. As the figure drew closer, their eyes locked onto Grace, something shifted in the air. She felt a chill run down her spine. With a mysterious smile, he gestured with fluid grace, arms open wide, appearing both inviting and dangerous. The crowd waited, breath held tight, and Grace braced herself, willing to face whatever came next. But questions arose in her mind: was this newcomer friend or foe? In that moment of uncertainty, the night seemed to hold its breath, leaving them all wondering what revelations awaited. The tall figure stepped into the light, revealing features that were sharp and angular, giving him an air of undeniable confidence. His eyes, dark but with a flicker of warmth, scanned the crowd as he approached. Grace felt a strange pull toward him, a mixture of trepidation and curiosity brewing in her chest. "Who are you?" she called out, her voice breaking the thick tension. He stopped just short of Peter, a knowing smile tugging at his lips. "I'm here to help," he replied, his voice deep and resonant. "But first, we need to deal with a little bit." Of his gaze flicked to Peter, unnecessary theatrics. Peter's expression twisted in anger. "Help? From you? Spare me the charade. You think you can come here and intimidate me?" The crowd felt the shift, like a tide pulling back before the wave crash. Grace stepped closer to the stranger, her heart racing. Who was he? What exactly was he bringing into this already tumultuous night? "Listen, Peter," the man said, his demeanor unbothered, "your time is up. You've held people in fear long enough. And I think it's time to set the record straight." Gasps echoed from the gathering, tension crackling like electricity in the air. Grace could see that Peter was losing his grip, his bravado dissolving into panic. "You don't know anything." He spat, trying to regain control. But the conviction in the stranger's eyes only seemed to amplify the anxiety swirling around. "What's your game? Are you part of Melissa's twisted plan?" Grace stepped forward, her instincts screaming at her, looking to protect her friends. The tall man's smile grew softer, almost reassuring. "Not at all. I'm here to reveal the truth, not to create more chaos." He peered over the tension-filled crowd, locking eyes with Rachel and Tom. "You all deserve better than the shadows Peter's been lurking in." Peter stepped back, the authority in the stranger's voice making him feel smaller. "You've made a mistake coming here tonight," he hissed, the confidence rapidly draining from his tone. "I think it's you who underestimated the power of unity, Peter," the man said, taking another bold step toward him. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, each person instinctively leaning in, sensing the climax approaching. "Who sent you?" Peter snapped, desperation creeping into his words. "You think you can save them?" "I don't need to save them, Peter." He gestured to Grace and the others. "They're capable of saving themselves. It just takes one spark to ignite the fire." Grace's heart swelled with a new hope at his words. She could feel the energy shifting in the crowd, igniting something deep within her. Suddenly, the weight of fear lifted slightly, replaced by a rush of determination. "Let us show him, then." Rachel's voice rang out, fierce and demanding. "We're not afraid of you, and we won't let Melissa destroy us." Tom added with firm conviction, "Together, we're stronger than any one of them can imagine." Grace felt their energy surging through her like wildfire, power surged in the air. This was the moment where they would unmask the fear, rewrite their fate. Peter looked increasingly unhinged as he realized he was losing control. "You're making a big mistake," but the tall man raised his hand, silencing Peter. "No. This is where mistakes end and truth begins." A palpable silence fell as if the world had paused. But their moment of clarity was short-lived. The shadows lurking at the corner of the clearing shifted ominously, a new threat tightening around their resolve. "What is happening?" Grace whispered, eyes darting toward the gathering darkness. The stranger's expression hardened, his confidence now turning serious. "You think this is just about Peter? There's so much more at stake." In that instant, Grace realized they weren't just fighting against one person, they were standing against an entire tide. What lay hidden in the darkness? Who else might come to play in this twisted game? The answers were waiting, looming just beyond their reach, and her heart raced at the idea of uncovering the truth. But the stakes just got higher. Was this really the beginning of their battle, or the calm before the storm? The tension thickened in the air as collective breaths hung, waiting. The stranger's words echoed in Grace's mind. This was about more than just Melissa and Peter. They were tangled in a web of secrets that threatened to unravel everything they had fought so hard for. Suddenly, the rustle of leaves drew Grace's gaze toward the darkened edge of the park. A figure emerged, stepping into the lamplight. The crowd gasped softly as recognition shattered the unease. Melissa! Someone cried out. With her imposing presence, Melissa swept into the clearing, her expression a mix of fury and feigned calm. Her designer attire shimmered like a shield, dazzling but also concealing the truth beneath. You think you can just band together like this? She spat, her voice cold as ice. Guess what? We can. Tom shouted, stepping forward beside Grace, emboldened by their newfound unity. Perhaps it was the strength of hope radiating from their collective spirit, or maybe the reassurance from their unexpected ally that lit the fire beneath Grace. You don't own us, Melissa. She declared, her heart pounding furiously. We're not just your victims anymore. Melissa's smirk faded, revealing something dark behind her calculated demeanor. You really think standing in a circle and shouting makes you potent? How quaint, she said, her voice laced with condescension. Not quaint at all, Melissa. We've gathered people's stories, we possess evidence of your deceit, Rachel said, stepping forward after Tom, her stance fierce, unwavering like a warrior. We know what you've done. Do you honestly believe any of that can tarnish my image? People thrive on drama, it's entertainment for them, nothing more. You'll fail just like you always do. Melissa's voice echoed through the clearing, but beneath that bravado, Grace saw vulnerability. This was desperation wrapped in arrogance. Stop underestimating us. Grace's voice rang out, resolute and fierce. Your power rests in your ability to divide us, but look at us now. We're stronger together than apart. With each word, the fire within her surged, fueled by the passion shared among her friends. Melissa's eyes flickered, a shadow of doubt breaking through the steel facade. You think you can end me? I have thousands backing me. My family, she sputtered, almost as if she were trying to convince herself. We are done with fear, Melissa. The stranger interjected, striding toward her confidently. You think you own the narrative, but now it's ours. We will expose your truth. The crowd rallied behind Grace, their determination visible. We'll share our stories with the world, she declared passionately, each word a brick building the wall against Melissa's threatening presence. Your lies have gone unchallenged for too long. A flicker of uncertainty flashed in Melissa's eyes. You're all crazy if you think this ends here, she warned, but the confidence in her voice was waning. You'll regret this. The stranger took one more step forward, erasing the space between them. Or perhaps it'll be you who regrets continuing this game. We have evidence, we're not alone, and we will take a stand. Slowly, Grace felt an unwavering strength swelling among them, weaving through the group. Unity was their greatest weapon. They wouldn't allow fear to belittle them anymore. In that moment, Officer Ramirez emerged from the shadows, his presence grounding as he walked toward them purposefully. What is going on here? He demanded, a serious gaze landing on Melissa. Your activities are under scrutiny, and now is the time for accountability. Beside Grace, Tom nodded, solidarity building like a wall. She needs to answer for her actions, officer. She has taken everything from us. The crowd rallied, echoing sentiments of agreement. One voice joined another yes. We demand justice. Creating an unwavering chorus for truth, Melissa's expression morphed into indignation, her voice rising. You think you can win a battle with a few concrete stories? Pathetic. Believe it or not, truth holds more power than you can imagine, Rachel murmured softly but strongly. And we'll show you. The atmosphere electrified as Officer Ramirez turned visibly serious. Melissa, I need you to come with me. We need to gather evidence for the investigation. Panic stormed through Melissa's features, a look so foreign beneath all her bravado. You wouldn't dare. She hissed, searching the crowd desperately for anything that could rally her support, but her allies, the ones who had once feared her, now stood aligned against her, fueled by shared struggle. This is your moment to reckon with the consequences, Melissa, the stranger chimed in, the authority in his voice resonating deeply. The game you've played has consequences. Grace caught a moment of breath as the world turned on its axis. They were no longer trapped by shadows, they were a force ready to emerge, casting the light on a truth that had long been hidden. As Officer Ramirez reached for Melissa, Grace felt hope bloom unfurling inside her. A wave of tears threatened to spill over her cheeks, the tears of joy, of triumph. They weren't just standing up against an oppressor, they were reclaiming their lives, their strength, and their community. With a firm hand on Melissa's arm, Officer Ramirez took her step away from the crowd, her walls crumbling slowly. This is your final call to stop the charade. Tom reached out, squeezing Grace's hand gently. The crowd erupted in cheers, brimming with the light of newfound freedom. Together they had faced darkness and emerged, courage shared, lives intertwined. As Melissa's figure receded into the distance, Grace turned to those who had been along for the ride, gratitude bursting in her heart. This was their triumph, a commemorating chapter that would echo throughout their community. You did it! Rachel exclaimed, looking at each of them, her proud smile unwavering. We did it! Joy radiated around them, hopes buoyed by victory. We fought back, Grace smiled, her eyes reflecting every single soul standing beside her. And now we're unstoppable. The sirens may have wailed, but harmony was their answer, strong, unwavering, ready to continue the fight. Together, the uncertainty that had once plagued the diner and its patrons faded, leaving in its wake a tapestry woven from strength, community, and enduring hope. With hearts open, they stepped into the new dawn. This was their moment, and it was just the beginning. Don't miss being part of the next chapter in this journey. You need to subscribe now to catch exclusive stories and updates. Leave a like now to help us spread the word and keep the fire alive. Comment below your feelings about this incredible transformation. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful stand against injustice. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.